If you are in a coaching or consulting business and have yet to generate $100 million with your business, I want you to do yourself a favor today and clear out your entire schedule for the next 90 minutes to finish watching this entire masterclass in one sitting. I believe your livelihood depends on it, the livelihood of everyone that you love depends on it, and most importantly, the survival of your business depends on you acquiring the insights that will be shared with you within this masterclass. We had Tanner Chidester join our community and do an amazing masterclass. If you don't know who he is, he's essentially built a coaching business online and scaled it past $100 million in the last 6 years alone. Now, the reason why I believe this was an amazing masterclass, by the way, Tanner, if you're seeing this, our members of the Natural Born Leader community loved it, our clients in the incubator loved it, and our partners said that this was by far the best masterclass that we've ever hosted. Now, the reason why I personally thought it was an amazing masterclass is because of the following two reasons. The first one is because Tanner actually validated this idea that I've been talking about on my channel for so long, which is the fact that competition is through the roof. And if you believe that you can make millions online without having a unique mechanism, a unique protocol, and preferably have a fulfillment model that gives you an edge over everyone else, you're delusional. It's impossible to make millions of dollars online unless you have a moat, unless you have a unique mechanism, and unless you have a fulfillment model that is unique. That's one. The second reason why I love this masterclass is because Tanner, for the first time, which I keep seeing a lot of people not share this reality, which is the fact that coaching or consulting business model or this high ticket business model is broken. And he actually shared it. I was like, wow, for the first time, someone who actually agrees with me. And that's why for a lot of you guys keep seeing a lot of people come in, make millions of dollars and exit this industry, either go to software or to start companies where it's like private equity, where you get to acquire businesses and scale them, is because the model is broken. The model is broken. Why would someone who's made millions and millions of dollars every year or even every month leave a business that prints profit? It's because long-term, the model is not sustainable. And there are two reasons why it's not sustainable. The first one is because when you sell something, you're not able to guarantee success, because coaching or consulting is purely advice-based. So that's why I keep recommending a lot of people to sell asset instead of selling advice, because when you sell an asset, people are happy to pay for the asset and not necessarily for the outcome. That's one. The second reason why essentially the model is broken is because it lacks recurring revenue. Information is good when it comes to scalability, but when it comes to recurring value, it is the worst. When you get a piece of knowledge, as soon as you consume it, it is useless. So therefore, that's why a lot of people who sell courses, coaching, or masterminds, they have a hard time recurring their revenue and have to go run after new clients month after month, is because it's information based. As soon as people get the knowledge, they don't need you anymore. So I think anyone who doesn't consume this masterclass and go till the and watch the whole thing, I don't understand what you're doing. I generally don't understand. I think it's careless. I think it's irresponsible, and you're putting a lot of people at risk, whether that be yourself, your team. And I recommend you guys watch the whole thing. Now, I have a pretty special surprise coming up in the next week and a half. With this Build and Release AI Webby that we're doing, I believe building AI assistants as a knowledge worker, coach, agency owner, consultant will be the thing that changes everything for us. You'll be able to turn your IP, your knowledge, into an AI assistant that delivers done for you work that you can not just sell for implementation, but that you can also charge per usage. Every time someone runs a specific system, every time runs a specific process, a specific protocol, you get paid. Imagine if you can get paid as a software business, but for your consulting or coaching business. If you're curious about what we're building internally at clientacquisition.io, please click the link below and register. It's only $7. Love you. Bye-bye. So Tanner, one of the things that I always like to do to give context, because I think context is super important for, it's not about what someone is doing, it's kind of like how the sequence through which things happen that is super important to understand. So are you able to kind of like walk us through your journey before kind of like, or how you even ended up kind of like ending up with Elite CEOs as a brand, as a company?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in pretty religious household. I was one of 7 kids. I had 2 brothers, 4 sisters. Didn't have a lot. My dad was a teacher, so I saw my parents struggle, growing up. My dad was, he made more money from odd jobs than his actual job as a teacher, but he loved it. And stuff was tight. So as I grew up, I remember I was, as I got older, I really got into fitness, and I told my mom I wanted to be rich so I could get meal prep. And I could go to a restaurant, like that just was a big thing for our family because a family of 9, it's, $400, $500, $600 for dinner. We didn't really do vacations. So as a kid, I was the first boy. I got bullied quite a bit. I had 2 older sisters and they didn't mean anything, but we did tea parties and dress up. So when I got to middle school, that didn't do me any favors. I got picked on a lot. And around 12 years old, I really remember I remember someone making fun of me in the class specifically. And I went home to my parents and I didn't really know what to do. My dad was really religious, so he's like, "Hey, you should pray and all that." And I'm not against religion, but they kept messing with me. And so finally I said, I had enough, and I told my parents, "Hey, I want to start going to the gym so I could beat these kids up." That was actually my so I started going to the gym before school. I'm in 6th grade, and they dropped me off around probably 6 a.m. And then I work out for 2 hours, and I'd go to school. And after about 3 months of doing that, I started seeing dramatic results, right? Because I was still in puberty, and no one at 12 years old is working out. And I remember I started getting compliments from girls and my teachers, and some of the guys stopped messing with me. And I was like, oh shit, like, if you work hard and you dedicate yourself to something, good things can happen. At that point, I started going really deep into athletics because I just was excelling there, specifically American football, or football for those of you who are in the States. And I played basketball in high school, but I just knew I could go farther with football. So pretty much from 12 to 22, the way I attacked business was how I attacked sports. I just wanted to play in the NFL by any means necessary. And that ended when I was 22. I think I wasn't good enough, probably. That's just being honest. I like to think I was, but I probably wasn't. And then I just got a lot of injuries. So at 22, I felt like I had to start from scratch. So I went from kind of a loser, like bullied, to kind of captain of the football team, all conference, stuff like that. Played Division I football, was big man on campus, and then went back to kind of being a loser. At least that's how it felt. So from 22 to 25, I tried to build my business. Very little success. My girlfriend left me at the time. That was pretty tough. She thought I was an idiot. Her mom thought I was an idiot. My family didn't really think I was going to make it happen, but I had one mentor who sat down with me after football, and he said, "Hey, what's your goal?" And I said, "I just want to make a shitload of money." That's what I said. I just want to make a shitload of money. And my motivation was because of my childhood. And he said, "Well, you're not going to make any money as an engineer." And that's what I was studying. I was going to be a petroleum engineer. You make 100,000 out of school. And I thought that was a lot. And so he said, "Drop out of school, come work in my home office, and I'll teach you everything I know." So I drop out of school against everyone's wishes and what they thought I should do. I didn't even know if I should do it, but I just had big dreams and aspirations. So I was like, F it, I can always go back to school type deal. So I go in his office and he starts teaching me all about ClickFunnels and webinars and emails and all this stuff that I had no idea what this stuff was or what this world was. I remember asking him questions. I would say, "Well, why do they call this an opt-in? Why don't they just call it an email page?" And I would get upset because he's like, "That's just what they do, bro." He's like, "You just got to learn the lingo." So I don't have any success. I'm now like 23 and a half. I'm still living at home with my parents. I'm back in my hometown. I'm like, "Bro, I got to get out of here. Like, this is not a good look." So I move up to Utah where I had more family. Still, the business is really struggling. And the business I was trying to build, I was learning a lot of skills, and this will come back in just a second. But I was trying to sell a low ticket fitness program I called it the Rapid Muscle System. But it was for 47 bucks, and I didn't really have a following, and I didn't know how to run ads. And so any sales I did make would just go to gas or Subway, like I just didn't, I couldn't get out of my situation. So I get up to Utah and I met a couple guys who were like, "Oh, dude, your business would take off if you just had money." I was like, "Oh, of course. That's why I'm not succeeding," which wasn't true. And they're like, "You should do door-to-door sales. You're going to make a ton of money doing door-to-door sales." Like, yeah, of course. So I started doing door-to-door sales, and that was, to this day, the hardest thing I've ever done mentally. So I went down to Alabama. We were selling during the summer mostly. 9 months is a long time, but most of it was pretty hot. And the way it would work, it was 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day. So you'd be about 4 hours of driving there and back, because these areas would be pretty far. So you try to hit little pockets where they don't get as many visitors. So they're really welcoming. They'll just like let you in their house, and it's easier to sell. and then I'd be on the doors for about 8 hours. What they do is they take you to an area, you literally get out of the car and they drive away. And then they're like, we'll see you at like 8. So that
Yeah.
was my life for about 9 months.
Wow.
Hardest thing I've ever done, but I really learned how to sell just lights out, because door to door, for anyone who hasn't done it, they hate you. They want nothing to do with you. Your heart's pounding. Like, it's quiet. So imagine like it's really quiet and you knock on their door and you like, they're kind of looking, and then they like walk towards you and their face is like disgusted. It just was really difficult. But when I was done, or actually even before I was done, I was thinking about going back to school, because now I'm getting close to turning 25, or I think I was 25. So for 3 years, I kind of did what I thought I should do. Everyone's looking at me like, you're an idiot. It's not working. You should go back to school. And then I saw an ad on Facebook that said how to build an online fitness company. And that's what I've been trying to do. So I clicked on it. I got on a call. It was $5,000. I had $2,000 to my name still. Like, I basically was going nowhere. And I put $3,000 on a credit card, and I jumped in, and, I started watching the videos, and I'm a very straightforward guy. So some people, they like that, some people don't, but I just was watching the videos. I was like, dude, what is this like rah shit? Just tell me what I need to do. Like, I don't have time for this. Cause it was like, hey, you got to do this and that. And it was like, I just was like, tell me what I need to do. So the coach said, all right, just raise your price from 47 to 1,500 and sell it over the phone. I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, like, that's not going to work, but whatever. I don't have anything to lose. So I started messaging my following, and the first week I made 10 grand. I was like, oh
Wow.
shit. Yeah. And that was a pretty weird moment for me, because I was so ecstatic that it worked, but I was so upset that I was so close the whole time. Like, I felt I had wasted 2 years going in circles. It also reinforced to me the importance of coaching. Just, to this day, I just invest like crazy, because if I don't know what to do, I have to find out. So I make 10K. I call my parents. I said, hey, I'm going to come home. Let me pay you like $1,000 of rent, and like, you'll never see me. Just like, I figured it out. Let me work. My dad's like, all right, as long as you don't sell drugs, you're good. So I go home, and I did $1,000,000 that year in my parents' bedroom. Got a bunch of awards, like this over here, like these little ClickFunnels awards. And that really started getting my name out there. And I had a bunch of trainers who started asking me to help. And originally I said no, because I had a real deep hate for business coaching, which is hilarious now. But I just had a lot of bad experiences, and it was really hard. And I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like those are good guys, and I don't want to do it. I kept getting asked, and finally I had a couple that they were struggling, and they said, hey, you're our last hope, like Obi-Wan Kenobi or something. They're like, you're our last hope. And I was like, all right, I'll do it, but I don't really want to, but I did. And then that's where I started a company called Fitness CEOs, which basically I was just showing them what I did to grow my fitness company, and that exploded. And that was the craziest year of my life. Like, it went from like 10, I went from 1 million to 10 million in sales that year. And I got this second award, this one. And then that's when stuff started going even crazier, because people were like, hey, Tanner, like, I've heard about you, but I'm not in fitness, but can you help me? And then that's when Elite CO started. And then I've been doing that last 4 years. And so that's my story. But yeah, it was pretty shitty, and it took a while, but it's all 2020. And then when you look back, you realize why those things happened.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, Serge, I'm bring it back just for the hook. So people on YouTube, when they see this, and how much total have you done now in sales?
We're about 111 million now and counting. Yeah.
Hopefully you guys pay attention for the next 45 minutes.
So for your first million, did you do it selling that 1,500 package? Was it still in the selling fitness to consumers?
Yeah. So my first
Wow.
million was all fitness. I was once I got to my peak, I was doing close to like 150-ish a month, and I was doing about 30 to 40 new clients a month. Most of it was paid ads or IG shout outs. I've always been a big paid ads guy. Like, it's funny, now I'm going the other way, where I really want to grow my brand and my organic audience. It's just harder though, right? Like, it's a lot harder to grow that than it is to run paid ads, at least in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I sold.
Wow. Interesting. I guess I could see why, with that kind of case study, why when you do actually start coaching others on how to do it, it picks off like crazy, because the product is actually good.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing. I was getting asked so much. And so the cool thing is if you are successful in any shape or form, if that's something you want to do, people will start to ask. It just happens automatically. It wasn't something I planned. But it also gives you a lot more credibility, right? Because people look at you as like, oh, he's actually built the thing I'm trying to build, instead of, the first thing he did is try to coach people how to build something he hasn't built, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, cool. You just mentioned something which is really interesting to us because, a big part of my audience is primarily people who grow companies. Like we're kind of like a group of people who go to companies, whether that be, coaches, consultants, local businesses, HVAC, Mets, but we just are in so many different niches. And our thing is really we're trying to keep up with trends and really seeing impact of how the market has become super sophisticated and the level of competition. And one of the things that we've been talking about is we've kind of like looked at the data from all the companies that we're scaling, and we realize like, I mean, and this is not necessarily a broad like across all niches, but there's a few niches where it's when it's super competitive, everyone who's really printing millions right now profitably, they're all through organic. Like not necessarily organic, like they still use ads, but like they have a really good foundationally strong organic presence,
Yeah.
especially on YouTube. Like
Yeah.
how it, you want to kind of like talk about how you're seeing things on your end.
Yeah. So I got some pretty high level friends, I would say. I bring him up too much, but he's just a good example that everyone knows. Like, I'm pretty good friends with Alex Hermosi, and I,
Mhm.
I was friends with Alex before he blew up. And the reason organic is so powerful is you just have to think of it as free ad spend. That's the difference. So ads work, but let's say you get a 4x return on ads and 2x collected. So meaning if you spend 25 grand, you do 100K in sales, you collect 50 up front. When like if you're getting 100 million impressions a month on your Instagram, which I think is where Alex is at or more,
Mhm.
that would cost you, I don't even know what that would cost you, but probably millions of Facebook spend, millions. I think it's about $100,000, give or take, for maybe, I might be misquoting this, but just so you guys know, it's $20 to $30 for 1,000 impressions, which means for 1,000 views. So I'm not doing the math right now properly, but I think if you're getting like 2 million impressions a month, that's like $100,000 of ad spend. So imagine you're doing 100 million impressions. So the benefit is you can basically push anything and someone's going to buy. And it takes a lot of pressure off you and the team. The downside is just harder, right? Um, so I think I wished in the past I put a bigger effort on it, because I was printing cash so fast and I was so deep in the business and operations. I don't think I really had the opportunity, because I think building a great organic audience is very difficult, especially
Yeah.
YouTube. But it's definitely the best. People like Iman Gadzhi or Alex or whoever, that's the difference. Because if you take a great business owner with massive amounts of traffic, it's game over,
Yeah.
because that's the most expensive cost I have in my business is paid ads.
100%. And we're trying to do for all the businesses that we're helping, whether that be agencies, we're getting them on content. Because we believe like if you can acquire attention for free, you're literally, I mean, you can make money just you can just serve people, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's also, your team is smaller. There's a lot of benefits. And I've had a team as big as 100, and I've spent, 500,000 plus a month on ads. So
yeah.
the only thing I'll say with organic is I think sometimes it'll be harder, right? Like I think it's harder to get the average client to succeed organically. Paid ads is a little bit more predictable, right? Like it's money in, money out. Still challenging, right? But yeah, I mean, if you have to pick, like if you guys had to pick, hey, would I rather succeed organically or paid ads? Yeah, I mean, if you had a big YouTube, you can pretty much win no matter what you do.
Cool. And then one other question I'd love to ask is since you kind of like have blown up with this kind of like with elite CEOs, like one of the problem within our space is, especially in the consulting coaching space, is being able to retain clients, right? For you, how have you kind of like, because a lot of people in the coaching space, they just make a lot of money, but then they're every month you got to go acquire new clients.
Mhm.
And for me, that just has been something that I've been like Yeah, no. Which leads me to kind of wanting to stay a lot on service. Like even though our front end may be a product, like our back end is heavy, big team, big payroll, but it's like we need to service people so recurring revenue can happen. Like have you structured things on your back end to be able to solve that problem?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say I've solved it. Um, I think to your point, consulting, that's one of the downsides. I think
Yeah.
consulting's a great starter business. I think it's great for beginners. You can get in, no skill, no cash. It's great cash flow. It's a great cash flow business. The issue though with information is once someone acquires the information, it's no longer valuable, right? So if I teach you something, you're like,
Hmm.
wow, Tanner's the man, but now you know it. So the issue is that what people are usually looking for in business is they're looking for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But ultimately, once you've gone through a couple of things, you start to realize most of it's the same, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just doing the same things better and consistently. So in terms of like what we've tried to do, obviously we have back end products. So usually what we'll do is if we bring them in on the front end, either it's going to be like a free or a low ticket product. And then
Hmm.
obviously we're upselling stuff on the back end, or we sell a high ticket product and the same thing. The back end products will just be more of what they want. So if I'm consulting their business, it'll be like, do you want done for you ads? Do you want done for you setters? Do you want done for you closers? And that was hard to build, being
Yeah.
honest. That's a lot of different services, but it was giving them more of what they had. But realistically, I think your expectation should be lower. That's why some people will pivot to other businesses. That's why Hermosi did school. It's why Sam Ovens did school. It's why Becker did Hyros. It's why, you know, who else can I think of? People
Yeah.
usually will start taking their skills in this industry and they'll move to other industries at a certain level because there's better business models that are easier to keep clients on recurring for that reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It compound businesses that compound, right? Like ours are a little trickier to figure out, just keeps you in the hamster wheel. But cool. Casey, I don't know if you want to jump on.
Yeah, I do. So one of the things that I always try to tell them in the community, right, is like go out and find the next failure. Because that's all business is at the end of the day. What I'd be super curious, and I actually asked William this, and it's super interesting to hear y'all's perspective. Because I can only imagine if all of us are trying to go out and find the next failure, that you've probably have found a ton of them. So I'd be curious to know what decisions have you made, or maybe one or two that just really stick out that just have not been worth it for you that you could help us hopefully mitigate in terms of doing.
That's a good question. So knowing what I know now, I think a big decision I look back on, and there's no way I could have known it, but Elite COs at one point was like nearing 2 million a month, pretty big number. And this was a couple of things happened that made that happen. I was growing really fast. COVID was happening. So there was like, that was kind of an injection of capital that I think most people didn't realize till after COVID ended, right? So then they weren't making quite as much. And when I got it there, I was like stoked. I was like, holy shit, like super pumped. And then as COVID started ending, it started going down. And I thought there must be an issue, right? I was like, there's got to be a marketing issue, an ads issue, an operation issue, whatever. And I spin my wheels like trying to figure out like why it was going down. And then a couple of years later, when I saw people transitioning, so like I saw Becker do Hyros, and I brought those examples up. Most of these guys are moving into softwares. You can also do private equity hedge funds, acquisition.com that Hermosi does, similar premise. I realized, I said, if all these guys are smart and all these guys, hit 1 million plus a month and they're all leaving, why are they leaving? And then that's when it hit me and I said, oh, you idiot. Like you've been trying to fix something that like you can't fix. It's just part of the business model. So I know most people here are not at 2 million a month or are not going to get there, but the lesson was I thought there was an issue with my company, but really it's just the type of business it is. At some point, it just isn't very sustainable because like you said, it's hard to keep clients on because no matter how good your program is, there's an information issue and or a skill issue on the client. So meaning, if I was a head coach for basketball and you have 3 players and you teach them how to shoot layups, the worst player wouldn't look at the coach and be like, oh, what the I don't know how to shoot a layup, but this happens in coaching and business all the time, right? They blame the person who gave the info, even though the info is the same. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is just once they get it, it's not as valuable. So I realized, okay, I can either stay in this industry and just be cool with where I'm at, or I'd have to get into another industry where there's just more like of a ceiling. And the lesson from that was, as I started looking, I started interviewing a bunch of billionaires. So I don't know if you guys have seen those documents, but I put them on my Facebook a while back. But I interviewed 30, I shouldn't say all billionaires. They weren't all billionaires, but the lowest person sold for 40 million. Some of them sold for 4 billion. And I started looking for, what was equal. And pretty much everyone who'd sold for a ton of money, it was just low to zero fulfillment. That was the key thing. It was low to zero fulfillment, internet marketing background. And then sometimes like they'd have a lot of traffic, but I started to think, I was like, why is that? And it's because everyone gets the same result. So therefore the word of mouth is all positive versus it's a mixed bag. So sorry, that was a mouthful, but that's like one of the lessons I learned. Hopefully that made sense.
It does make sense.
Let's riff a little bit more on that. So because I think the part where you say everybody gets the same result may have gone over a lot of people's heads. So let's break that down. So
Sure.
everyone should probably understand the low cost of fulfillment. So therefore you acquire clients, just zero marginal cost. Every single person comes in, gets kind of like, it literally doesn't cost you anything for any person. But what do you mean about the outcome is the same?
Yeah. So anything that requires work from the client by default will have scaling issues at some point because not every client will get the same result. It's like athletics, right? Not everyone's going to be the best football player, period, because it takes effort. But if I take an app like Uber Eats, the dumbest person on earth can order a burger and get a burger, right? Like, of course, Netflix, you just turn on a movie. Software. That's why a lot of times you see guys pivot to software, not because software is the end all be all, but everyone gets the same result. If I use a piece of software, everyone gets it. So what I realized, I said, I'd be like trying to do this in fulfillment and try to do this and do that and like make everything better. And then I realized at some point, no matter how good it was, if I had John who's a 10 and Jack who's a 5 and Jill who's a 1, Jill would still get worse results than John or Jack, no matter what. And that's not to say you shouldn't do a good job in your programs or you shouldn't make them as good as they can. But again, guys, like also keep in mind, I don't want to discourage people. Like I'm just talking like huge numbers. I'm talking like rich of the rich. So I'm not saying, like abandon ship and like all is lost and despair. But that was a big lesson I learned because I do want to get to those levels. And I started to realize no matter what I did, it was going to be tough. Like it was going to be tough to stick. Like I would say it'd be tough to do that with Elite COs, which is my main company.
Yeah. So essentially, is this idea around building a product that, because I guess you could even, let's not even get into software, because most people will probably not get to software, but there is room to kind of like almost like instead of selling an outcome, you're selling more so like an asset. Like you pay this to get this, and everyone gets this, but you're not necessarily promising that, oh, you're gonna make 50 million if you use this ad. But it's like this is the ad that works. So buy this and it's yours. Kind of like that angle.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. One of my portfolio companies is day trading. So think of it this way. So it's like how to make a little extra money on the side. So it's a low promise. Okay, then it's like you just have to click a couple buttons, right? Essentially, like it's like you read the graph, click these buttons, and then he takes it a step further. And he's like, oh, by the way, if you want us to do a done for you trading bot, we can just do that. So anything that makes it so takes very little time to get the result, right? So as fast a result as possible, right? It's hard to get people pumped like, hey, you'll make 10K in 6 months. And they're like, that's not that good. Or B, well, actually, and B, they don't have to do any effort. So like a day trading offer by default, if it works, let's say it's a trading bot, it's great. It's like instant results, 10% a month or whatever they promise. Click a button.
Yeah.
Consulting by nature is difficult. So I'm like, all right, dude. So they're like, Tanner, how'd you make 100 mil? I'm like, all right, I'll tell you, 16 hours a day, pretty much for 6 years. You down? The average person's like, no, you're crazy. You're a psycho. So that's kind of the key premise, I guess I'm trying to get across. And I'm not saying it's bad. I knowing what I know now, I think the best thing you can do is go into internet marketing learn all the skills of the business, organic, ads, content, everything. And then you can take those skills. If you want to get to the next level, you take those skills at some point and then you just put it in a better business model that is better suited to hit that. That's it. And some people, you know, I'd say the average person is happy to make 1 to 2 million a month. So you guys don't have to pivot, right? But if
True.
you're trying to get to crazy levels, then that's why you see those individuals pivot, because it makes it very difficult to keep making that amount of money on a consistent basis.
I agree. And for me, one of the things that I'm seeing kind of like opening up a little bit more is with kind of like with AI. I believe there's a great opportunity for people like us who, you know, have maybe consulting businesses, service businesses, to eventually build really like affordably tools and systems that create an outcome consistently for your people. It's almost like get away from selling like building a company is hard, but let's say find one thing within the deliverables that you can essentially use a bunch of tools, prompts, GPT, connect a bunch of things and just build a UI for it, an app, and deliver one of the deliverables with AI. Like for
Yeah.
me, I think it's you say, I don't know for you if you're looking into AI a little bit or somewhat.
Yeah, I am. So I bought I have some portfolio companies. I don't talk about them much, but most of them, actually all of them, are software right now.
Mm,
They're all
Interesting.
software. Um but that's kind of the premise, right? Is like you find something that people will deem valuable and that you know they won't cancel. That's the key thing. It's like they won't cancel. And the benefit is then you don't have to go out every month and get new clients. But it just has to be good, right? And that's the key
yeah,
thing. It has to be good. If you build something and people are like, that'd be nice to have, but I don't need it, they'll usually cancel. So I think like Hyros is a great example. It's ad tracking software. And his promise is, hey, with our tracking software, you will make more money and save money because it's more accurate than Facebook. So they literally have to do nothing. I've been paying them for 4 years. They do nothing. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying, like, they literally, I don't talk to them. I don't even know who my support rep is.
yeah,
And they make $1,500 a month. That's
crazy.
crazy, right? But they do absolutely nothing. So again, it doesn't have to be software guys. It can be other companies, or there's a million examples. I really love this subject, but that's the biggest lesson I've learned from doing what I did. And I don't know if I would have learned that if I hadn't pushed the upper limits, because I just wouldn't have been forced to think that way, right? I wouldn't have been forced to like go interview people and like ask those questions, I guess.
Love it. Hey, so a couple more guys, and I promise I'll bring it back to you. One of them is contrary to that. What decisions have been worth it, even recently?
Dropping out of school, very pivotal moment in my life. I think the three biggest pivotal moments of my life was deciding to go to the gym at 12 years old. That really has molded a lot of my work ethic. Dropping out of school at 22, even though I was scared shitless. And then, 25, probably when I made my first sale. Those have been the most pivotal. And if I hadn't made those decisions, I don't think I'd be here. Those are definitely the most pivotal. Uh, when someone says, what's the best decision you ever made? As dumb as it sounds, I know it's so cliche, but it was just hiring a coach. Uh, it kind of pissed me off because I spent 2 to 3 years going in a circle. And part of it is because I didn't know this industry. I didn't even know there was such thing as coaches, to be honest. Like, I didn't know that was a thing in the business world. But then number two, as soon as I hired the coach, I started making a ton of money, and it was because I just had more direction. And a lot of people will basically push back and say, yeah, but like I had a really bad coach and it was a bad program and this and that. But that's the point. It doesn't matter though. If you're dating, if you date 7 girls and the 8th one's your wife, you're not like, oh, I'm so upset I had 7 other girls. Like, you're learning from each relationship you have, which feeds into the marriage, right? The last relationship. So when you have a coach, even if it's the shittiest coach on earth and you think he's like the scum, you're going to learn what not to do, which is as valuable as learning what to do. Because a lot of times we see so many things on social media, we can't discern what's reality and what's fake and who's bullshitting numbers and who's not. It's tough. So once you hire someone, you just go in as hard as you can you'll figure out if you do it 10x, like if it's true or not, and then you move to the next thing. And that's how I view success is it's just opening X amount of doors. Some people it will take longer, some will take less, but as long as you keep opening new doors, you should get there.
Love it. Love it. Last three. And you guys will find value in these because a lot of them I've actually used your story in our support calls. One of the things I always bring up to them is your story when you said when you came back from, I always say hiatus. I don't know if that's what you deem it as, but there was a YouTube video you made where you said you came back, you had 6 sales guys, and you fired all of them except one. And word for word, you said the only guy I kept was the guy with the biggest balls.
Yeah.
And I tell them right now, everyone right at most people's stage, if you're below like 50K a month, 100K a month, like you need to be willing to go all in on sales. So can you give people context why you did that? So maybe you can just harp it into them.
Yeah. So once I got my company to a very big point, I stepped out and, there's a lot of stuff going through my head. I was trying to find, I guess, like deeper meaning and what was my next business and what I wanted to do and all those types of things that you can do when money isn't as big of an issue. And when I left, you guys know the game telephone, it's like, all right, banana. The next person's like Batman. The next person's like banjo. It just gets worse and worse. When I came back, I think that's what had happened. Where my leadership and my leadership team had kind of fallen a little too far. And so some of these sales guys were just not doing what they're supposed to do. So instead of trying to fix it, I was just like, you're gone. And I just rebuilt the team from the ground up. In terms of, I guess, did you want me to hit more on like just the
Well,
tenacity?
because the thing that you hit on was you said you fired everyone except the one guy, and the one guy you kept was the guy with the least experience. And the reason you kept him is because he had the biggest balls because he was willing to challenge people's beliefs when they said no.
Yeah.
Angel.
Yeah. I mean, skill, not everyone can have skill, but everyone respects someone who works hard. I mean, everybody. That's a currency that anyone across any country, religion, language, like everyone knows the person who's like, he's that mother effer. You know what I mean? You see that guy in the gym or you see that guy in business, you're like, man, that guy's crazy. Like everyone respects that. So half the battle of success is you can't really control too much where you're born. Obviously, I don't know if you guys can. I don't believe I did. You can't really control who your parents are. You can't control like how smart you are, right? But you can always control your effort. And so that's just something I really respect. And effort will take you a lot of times farther because most people just don't really work that hard. And I've really thought about that word, like hard work, because that's why I think a lot of successful people also have an athletic background. Not always, but you basically are told what has to happen and you just have to get it done or you won't play. And that was especially what happened to me at the highest levels. So you learn to push yourself and you're just uncomfortable all the time. So when I got into business, it wasn't that anything really changed. It was just, it went from physical to mental. And because I'd pushed through so many hard things before, I think that's why I didn't quit. I think the average person, if they had gone through what I went through, 90 something percent of people would have quit. I almost quit. I almost did. And that's a crazy thought to me now, but that's why I think a lot of people fail is they underestimate how hard it will be. And then but they'll also overestimate how long it's going to take. So if someone came to you and said, hey, for the next 3 years, you're going to eat shit. 3 years is in the short term kind of feels like a long time. Wouldn't you guys agree? I mean, people are like, oh, 3 years. I'm like, bro, when you're living the 3 years, it's horrible. 16 hours a day. I wasn't dating. I had a shitty car. I mean, my bedroom was like 300 square feet. I couldn't even go on a date because I was making $100 a day as a server. So that was like, I had to really like that girl. You know what I mean? To take her to Red Lobster. It was very serious, very serious. So, but now looking back, I'm like, man, 3 years for what I accomplished, the difference in what I would have made. I actually think about this. If I'd been an engineer for the last 6 years, let's say 600K after taxes, what I take home 450. The last 6 years, I've done 111 million at 30% profit. Okay. So my life would be completely different, but I never would have known that. And I think that's a massive mistake most people make. And it makes me sad because a lot of times people will go, well, I don't have 10K to invest, or that's too much money. And I'm thinking, you realize you're never going to know what you lost out on by not making that decision. Because we only think about what we're going to lose, but we don't think about what could have been. So sorry if I got a little off topic, but yeah, I mean, guys, working hard is half the battle. And I think a lot of times once you get to a certain level and you think you can't go any harder and you push past it and you don't die, you realize that you could go even harder. And if you guys watch the documentary by Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, that's a killer trait and instinct of very successful people. Is successful people do the most and they never think they're doing enough. And unsuccessful people do the least and they always think they're doing too much.
Love that. Love that. Last one, and I'll bring it to you guys. There was one point. So I think for all of us, right? It's funny. I used to join all these programs back in the day, Emon, et cetera, et cetera. And the first mod was always mindset. You get to a point like, bro, I don't want this woo-woo stuff. Get this out of the way. Get this out of the way, right? Now I'm 30, and the more time goes on, you're like, at least this is my opinion, like, damn, a lot of it is how like you control your emotions and the person you become. There was one point I was like so stressed, and they've heard this story. My head felt like it was gonna pop, and I joined an Andrew Tate live stream. And I asked him, and he answered it. And I said, dude, I'm extremely stressed to run a business, blah, blah, blah. And he answered it. He said, young man, what I want you to understand is that your success will never exceed your stress tolerance, right? So you just need to manage your stress. And I think for a lot of us, we beat ourselves up before we quit on ourselves before the company quits. And I think there's a lot of conversations with a lot of people behind the scenes that not even the internal team knows about that I'm having with people. And they're just in their head, genuinely. And I think they're beating themselves up more than, like, they're almost on the verge of quitting, right? From someone who has gone through all the adversity, would you say mindset and the way you manage your emotions has a pretty big role? Is there anything that you can kind of give to them before I pass it on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I would say I'm not the most calm and collected person, especially from sports. I mean, I was running around the football field like screaming, cussing at people, and hitting them as hard as I could. So when I first started business, I didn't. It's interesting. I think I ignored a lot of how I felt. And that to a degree is very helpful because I didn't care if I woke up happy. I didn't care if I woke up sad. I didn't care if I was depressed. I didn't give a shit if I was sick. There were videos, people laugh at me, like my first Portal videos, I was super sick, but I was like growing so fast. So I'm like in the video, I'm like, all right, guys, so like click here. And they're like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I was like, I had to get these videos done. That helped me a lot in the beginning. As I've made more money and I've gotten to higher levels, I do think, going to your point, a lot of your success, I don't think, exceeds your level of personal development. What I mean by that is in the beginning of a business, you're the only person. So you're basically doing everything. At the highest levels of business, you can't do everything, right? It's impossible. Even if you see someone who's running what you deem a successful business as a one-man show, there's limits to that business, right? Like we can all agree. So if you think about the highest levels of business, people want to follow someone they want to be like typically, right? Or they're at least the business can provide something of equal value. And the smartest people in the world, they want to be compensated accordingly, right? So I think something I think about now is when I throw a temper tantrum or, I say something unkind to my team or whatever, it's going to ultimately hurt me because that means I'm going to attract lesser talent. Because like who wants to work for an a-hole, right? Usually. Or it also could be the person doesn't want to work for the type of business I run because they're like, this doesn't fit my dream inside that business. But this last year, I spent about $250,000 on mindset coaches. It's become a bigger part for me. In the beginning, sometimes I think people just need to rub a little mud in it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's going to suck. Like, I don't know what you expect type deal. But I do think at the highest levels, you do have to continue to grow personally because it will affect the type of talent you attract. And ultimately, the type of talent you attract is how good the business is. Once I think I don't know what the number was, 300K a month or whatever, but I started to realize like, well, fuck, it's like, I literally can't do everything. I can't be everywhere. So it really does come down to how good my team is, and how good your team is usually is how good you are, right? Your team's a reflection of you. I think a lot of life guys, it's a mirror. It's not a window. So when we're having issues in our lives, we always think it's the other person's fault, right? You probably have said in your head, like, what an idiot, right? Or something negative. I do it all the time. I still catch myself. I'm like, oh, that's so stupid. But a lot of times the way we feel, it's a reflection of ourselves. So I think the ultimate level of mastery and enlightenment is first you notice negative things and you try to stop it. I think the level above that is you don't even think it. You don't even think certain things. You know, and we do it all the time. If you just catch yourself walking down the street, you have lots of judgments of people. Because I got bullied as a kid. My girlfriend catches me. She says a lot of times, she's like, man, you're really judgmental of people. And I think part of it is as a kid, I got made fun of a lot. So I see someone like, oh, he's kind of like, I don't say this out loud or to them, right? But you know, in my head, I'm like, man, he's kind of chubby. Oh man, that
Are you
guy's
judging us, fool? Are you judging us?
yeah. No. But you know, I see guys like, man, he's kind of short. He probably has a hard time getting girls, or like you just have all these thoughts and opinions that have come from other people. So, anyways, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but there's a lot of cool stuff we could discuss with that. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
What a great answer. 250K just the mindset. You are your own worst enemy. It's you versus you. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. Oh, sorry. Just one question answer. Oh, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
One thing about the mindset thing and the judgment thing. I remember going through a consulting accelerator by Sam, and in one of his 2 hour long mindset trainings, he always had that, because us humans, we're actually, the reason why we're afraid of failure is because we judge people who fail. So if you stopped judging someone for something, you actually stop fearing the thing yourself. Because we always,
it's all fear, right? Like we don't care if we fail, we care about other people's judgments.
yeah.
Something and then we'll go into Q&A, guys. Sorry, but you guys have hit on a lot of points. I get really fired up and then I start like sweating and I can't shut up. Yeah, whenever I'm scared to make a big decision, the way I do it, if I'm scared to do it, is I go, what, like, if no one judged me, would I care? And usually it makes me more bold and more aggressive because the fear is coming from other people's judgments. And there'll come a point in all your lives where I think we all deal with it, but you're just going to have to realize nobody gives a fuck. And it's all in your head. Like they just don't care about you as much as you think they do. Like you might have a blowout with someone and like, they just don't care. Or other people see it, they talk about it for 2 days and then they never think about it again. You've been thinking about it for a year.
Yeah.
My dad said that. He was like, when I was 20 to 30, I cared what everyone thought. When I was 30 to 50, I didn't care what anyone thought. When I got past 60, I realized no one cared to begin with.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Cool. So everyone, just be respectful of others. One question, we'll move on, and be respectful of his time. I know we went over. We'll wrap up 5 minutes prior.
I can go a little longer if you guys need me to too.
Tanner, okay. You let us know then. Yeah.
No worries. Is it Janae? Is that how you say it? Janae?
Almost. It's Janae. I know it's
Janae. Okay, sorry.
Thank you for coming on. I think this is super cool. Actually, the person I used to work for invested in your Elite CEOs course. You were the first person I was introduced to. I was like, people pay how much for what? so I thought that was really cool. And he's definitely one of those people who didn't do anything, like came to 90% of the meetings, like hadn't done anything. And I'm like, how can you pay this much money and not do anything? But anyway, I've been following you for a long time, 3 or 4 or 5 years, I can't remember. But in one of your videos a long time ago, you had talked about how you bought a Ferrari and like you just were like, I'm giving this back. I hate it. It's stressful. And I used to get really annoyed when I would see people be like, oh, money isn't everything, you know? And actually, I'm actually really curious now, since you've had that recollection, like what actually makes you happy now? If money isn't everything, like how do you fill your days? What makes you happy?
Such a great question. So yeah, when I used to hear people say that originally, I just like, oh, you're poor. That's why you said that. I mean, that's actually what because I was like, you wouldn't say that, like you're poor. Once I started making a bunch of money, I think what I realized by that is you feel that you're unhappy because you're poor, and then you make a lot of money, so you think you'll be happy. And that was a big surprise to me. I remember when I hit $1 million in a month, I did it like 22 months, like $0 to $1 million in a month. And I remember I had this huge party. I can't show you guys right now, but it's out the window. It's a massive building in Miami. It's one of the most expensive, et cetera. And all these people came, and I remember I thought, I was like, man, everyone's gonna know who I am. This is crazy, right? And I remember someone came and they're like, yeah, dude, like, why are you having this big party? I was like, bro, I hit $1 million in a month. He's like, oh, cool. And they turned around. And I'm like, dude, do you realize like what I had to do to hit that? Do you have any idea what I went through? And that really painted the picture for me. In terms of happiness now, I went down, I had a little dark spiral for a while, because when I got there and I wasn't happy, it was pretty tough for me. I didn't really know how to handle it. So I started kind of trying to figure out the meaning of life and stuff. And I think everyone here, that can take you a lot of different directions. I'm more aggressive. So like, I'll do more crazier stuff. So like I went and did like, I think people thought they were a little scared for me for a while. I did ayahuasca and I did Bofu and Ibogaine. And I remember my team's like, yo, dude, people think you're kind of losing it. I probably was to a degree, but I brought him up earlier, but Alex Hermosi, right? He's a good friend of mine, and he's more nihilistic, so that doesn't resonate with everyone. But I remember I was talking to him like, bro, like I'm just not happy, and I don't know what to do. And he just said, dude, like, why do you have to be happy? I was like, I don't know, like, shouldn't he? He's like, no. He's like, why do you need to do anything? I was like, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just do what you want to do, and then stop worrying about if you're happy or not? So to summarize an answer, I think we all want things as humans, but I think really when we're the happiest, it's when we're in service, right? We're doing stuff for other people. We're in flow state. We're working hard. I was actually the most miserable I ever was when I took 6 months off from work. I didn't work a single day for 6 months, and I just, did whatever Tanner thought he should do. And I remember coming back and I started working. I was like, damn, I feel so much better. I didn't even realize how bad I felt because I've been off of work so long. I was miserable. I remember coming back, I was like, holy shit, I felt bad. So I don't know if that's the right answer. I don't know if there is a right answer, but I just like trying to be the best I can be. And I try to do as much of that as I can. And that's usually where I feel the most fulfilled. Yeah.
Thank
Cool.
you.
You bet. Carl, go ahead, man.
Yo, what's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, Sec. Thanks for showing up today, bro, and sharing the sauce. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the beginning of this call, you mentioned that I think it was when you were younger, you were saying that, you obviously put a lot of money into paid ads, and to get leads, you were doing paid ads and Instagram shout outs. I'm kind of diving a little bit into the Instagram shout out world. Now that we're in like 2024, approaching 2025, how effective are you seeing Instagram shout outs?
Not as effective as they used to be. Absolutely. It's
Not
getting
as
harder. Not as effective. Yeah, like not as good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they can't work. I think part of it does depend on your offer. The reason I say that is I've had so many clients and I have so many portfolio companies that I can run the same funnels, similar ads, et cetera. And one of the offers will outperform significantly because it's just a better offer. That's why that book, $100 million offers, that's why that book is so popular right now. But you would test it, right? Usually if you can get a follower for $1 to $2, you can make some money. If it starts getting beyond that, it usually starts getting too expensive. And then it also depends if you can outreach all the followers. So for me, we never spent more than 30,000 a month because we would get so many followers. My team literally couldn't outreach. And when you stop outreaching, at least for us, it wasn't quite as effective. Second to that, I would say that's the cheapest and most cost effective is boosted posts and then regular ads. Boosted posts, usually if you can get a profile view, it'll tell you on the post. So when I say boosted, IG post, down bottom right-hand corner, it says boost, 10 to 20 cents a profile view. And then I'd say $1 to $2 a follower. And then you just outreach all those people. I have some clients doing 70, 80 grand just doing boosted posts. Like they don't even run a real ad. So that's what I've seen being the most effective and the most cost efficient. So if I had a beginner, low budget, low skill, low experience, those are the two places I would start for sure. So hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, bro.
Okay. All right, Nico.
What's up, man? Appreciate you jumping on here. Quick question. What do you feel like is the most valuable lesson that you've learned? You've obviously been in business for a long time, and had multiple business, but what do you feel like is the most valuable lesson that you've learned through the process of growing all of these businesses?
Might sound cliche, but don't quit. Even now, just so you guys are aware, rich people still have problems. So you guys might think someone makes a certain amount. You're like, oh, he probably doesn't deal with that anymore. Like, there's still days where, like, for example, I'm trying to grow my YouTube right now and my social media. It's not going that good. Just being honest with you guys, it kind of pisses me off. But what's my choice? Like, I can either cry and pout, which I do to an extent, but like, I don't quit. I was having a meltdown probably 30 minutes before this call, honestly, because I'm like, bro, we're putting all this time and effort, and like, we got the team, we got 11 editors and all this shit, da da da. So that might sound cliche, but every time you want to quit, if you can just keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, you'll win, man. I just think a lot of success is just being consistent and not quitting, and just coming to the party every day, and not being tied to the outcome, but being tied to the input. So for example, and then I'll wrap on this, regret doesn't come from lack of results. You guys get that, right? Like, let's say I hadn't made 100 million, and let's say I'd made 5 million. If I had done my best, you guys realize I would feel exactly the same I feel now about my accomplishment. Regret stems from lack of effort. The reason there's regret is the thought is, well, what if I had done my best? If you do your best, you don't feel regret, because you're like, that's literally, I gave it my all. Like, that's the best I could have been. So as long as you don't quit, and every day you can genuinely say you did your best, I think you'll be fine, man. That's like the key. That's the most important thing I've learned is, even when things don't go my way, just keep fucking going. And so, for example, as successful as I've been in paid ads, I've been unsuccessful in organic content. Like, just think of it that way. Right. So I wouldn't be like, oh, Tanner Chidester, fucking fire organic content. Holy shit. He's got 23 subs on YouTube and he's posted 1,500 videos. Like, you know what I mean? This is for real. So anyways, hopefully that is helpful, but just, dude, don't quit. And then just be tied to your inputs. The inputs is your effort and what you do. The outputs is the result. If you get tied to results, you'll get real depressed real fast. Imagine this, you make 100 million and then you meet another guy who made more money. Imagine being friends with Alex Ramosi. That's who I text every day. Like, what am I gonna do? Alex will be worth probably 100 billion when he dies, right? Probably. He's a psycho, bro. So if I hit 1 billion, I failed. It's like, dude, I only did 1/100th of Alex. It's like, but I did 1 billion. You know what I mean? So, anyways, hopefully that's helpful. Sorry for the rant.
No, it's all good, bro. Appreciate it.
All right, Damien, go ahead, man.
How's it going, man?
Good, man.
My question is sort of like, it probably has something to do with your first business and how you kind of like first started and saw success. Where to give an example of sort of like what we're dealing with is like there's a whole bunch of KPIs that need to hit in order to kind of get to the next level or to get where you want to be. Where for us, it's like struggling to get that 1 month where just every KPI hits to where like we get where we need to go. Like rather it's the cost per appointment, closing rate, showing rate, that sort of thing. Like what I guess like my question is like, what did you do? Or was it a way of looking at it that you looked at like those metrics differently that got you to the point where all the KPIs just started hitting every month? Sort of thing, 'cause for us, it's a little inconsistent.
Okay, do you know what the numbers should be? Do you even know what the numbers should be? Or are you guessing?
No, we know what they should be. It's just like, you know, like 1 month we'll have a 70% show rate, and then the next month it drops to like a 50, which really kind of skews things.
Okay. So that's it. That's a good question. So I'll give you 2 points of view. The first thing that's been the most helpful for my success is my follow-up. Like, you know, all these awards behind me, these funnel awards, my funnel sucked, bro. They were ugly. They're just not that great, but my follow-up game was crazy. So the first thing that I've seen help the KPIs the most is like text, call, dial, voicemails, retargeting ads, DM. Like, you're just smashing people. Why? Because the part of success is, what are you doing that other people don't do? That's all success really is, right? The most successful people are doing, actually, I even take it back. It's the things they're not doing as well, right? Because that's where people get into personal development, like not drinking, not smoking, whatever. But that's the first thing. The second thing is, then I've ran a lot of ads. So I'm going to tell you something that like you may not want to hear, but not every month is going to be the best month. Okay. Like I didn't just do this all the way to 100 mil. It was like this, bro. It was like it's a fucking roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because there's some stuff you can't control. Politics, the elections going on right now raises ad costs. Q4 raises ad costs. COVID. Oh, Tanner, you're the best marketer on the earth. COVID ends. Oh shit, we're not as good as we thought. There's some things economically that you can't control. So, but what I would focus on the most is focus on all your follow-ups, like check all the stuff you can control. So for follow-ups, it's like, are we manually texting them? Do we send an automated email? Do we send an automated text? Can we have the setters call them to confirm the call as well? Can we screen harder on our application so that we're canceling more calls so we have a lower no-show rate, right? Like control the stuff you can control. But then the other part is, dude, I've been in business 6 years. If you think every month's going to go perfect and you're never going to have a bad month, even if you're doing all the proper stuff, like you shouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
It's just not that case. Does that help?
Yeah, it knows. Okay, and then I guess just like another small question on that. With looking at a cost per appointment, what are metrics that you look into to like have an effect on that number?
Cost, like, so just cost per call, what helps the most?
Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, so for just my journey, most of the ads I've ran over the years, we did ad to DM, and then once they come in the DM, so like an IG message, they get a link, they click that link and it takes them to the funnel. The reason I like that is my messaging team goes in and they message everybody. So you can book a call that way. Or B, we get their email and text and we can dial, text, and email them. We can book them that way. Plus you have the VSL, right? I'm not saying that's the best way to run ads now. I would have to know a little bit more about your business and see your numbers. But again, it goes back to follow-up, bro. Like if you follow up more than other people, you're going to make more money. That's usually the thing most people aren't going to do. And they're not good at it, right? So it's a skill issue. So they're following up, but their skill is really low.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, man. Awesome.
Chris?
Yeah. Thank you for showing up today.
Sure, man.
Thank you. So my question was like, on scaling, because I'm gonna give you a quick context. Is like, for example, you have a client, you charge rev share with them. The first, the second, the third type of client, it's kind of easy to get them resolved because your focus is just on them. But like on scaling, how can you like still keep the product, the service delivery really high, like with scaling? Like how do you do that?
What's your service?
Let's say I run ads, I build funnels, and just a type of marketing and sales enablement. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So two sides. One we can look at hiring. The other, we'll talk about the rev share. So let's do the rev share part first. So when you do a rev share, number one thing you have to do if you're going to do rev share long term, you can only have good clients. Why? Because if you bring someone on for rev share and they're a shitty client, they don't work hard, they suck at sales, they suck at messaging, they suck at running a business, and you're like, you're running the ads, and what do they? Oh, dude, these ads are terrible. The leads are terrible. They're going to blame you. Okay. So any portfolio company I have, number one rule is they have to be a good CEO. They're a shitty CEO. It's an absolute no-go because you're basically having to run the business for them, which at that point, it's like, you should just run your own business and take 100% instead of take 20% of a shitty business. You understand what I'm saying? So first thing is just, if you can keep good clients, way easier. It's harder to find them, right? So I understand, like, when you run ads, not everyone's the best client, et cetera, but you got to find that balance because good clients with rev share, dream come true. Shitty clients, absolute nightmare. Okay. The second thing then is to scale. You talked about, how do I keep a good service? You just have to hire really well. Okay. So what I'll do, I actually have a sheet I'll drop in the Zoom chat since he brought this up for hiring, because I won't have time to go through the whole thing.
Freebies, man. Oh my gosh. See, we knew we loved you, bro. We knew we loved you.
Let's go.
Yeah, this thing will save a lot of time. But I'll just go over the key. I'll go over the key components. So this sheet in the chat, guys, is for hiring. I'm going to share my screen super quick. I'm just going to hit on this quick. So when you hire, this is kind of my framework. Okay. And there's more stuff you guys can read, but the big framework is get on the call and because that's what you're really talking about. If you're going to scale, you need a team. So first thing you need to do when you get on the call is you almost want to scare people off. Okay. A lot of people, they are interviewing and hiring and they want to make it sound like the best business in the world. I'm the opposite. I want to scare people. So I get them on and go, cool. So our values here, we work really hard, no days off. You know, we're very competitive here. If you're not into that, you're not going to like it. Okay, cool. Here's your role and here's what you're going to solve. I go literally step by step, how it's going to look, the hours, what they're going to do in the day, etc. Okay, so I'm really setting expectations and I want them to think it's hard. Now, if it's easier than you say, great, but you never want it to be harder than you say, because that's where people quit. After that, you want to ask for experience. Never, ever, 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 ever in an interview, ask a yes or no question. Hey, are you good at ads? Hey, are you good at sales? What do you think they're going to say? Yeah. So I say, hey, tell me what jobs you've had in the past and what you did in a typical day. So just, you were a sales guy, tell me what you did in a day. By them telling you what they did in a day, you'll see what they're good at. That's the easiest way to know. Hiring for experience is always the best thing. Hiring for potential is not a way to win. Because when you hire for potential, yeah, they work hard, but the problem is you're doing the job for them for a lot of the time. You can't always afford experience in the beginning of a business, but as you grow, that's what you want to look for. Okay. Give them a stress test. So if I'm hiring you as a media buyer, I'll say, cool. Here's the offer. Write me 3 ads and tell me what type of funnel you'd use. Stress test them, man, because the best thing to do before you hire someone is work with them, right? Like see what they can give you. Then you just want to see what their goals are. And I'll just be like, look, dude, you don't have to say you're going to work with me till you die, but like, what are your goals? Right. And I'll joke and stuff. And I'm pretty direct to let them know, like, you don't need to tell me you're going to work for me forever. That's okay. Just like, tell me what you want. Then I'll say, how much would you like to make? Benefit here is if they say lower than you want, that's obviously a win. Okay. Cause like they want a lower number. If they say a higher number, then you reset expectations. And that's pretty much it. You can ask them like what working from home means. I like to make sure it's like, hey, working from home means you're working at your house. It doesn't mean you work whenever the fuck you want. Okay. And then if you're not the CEO, have the CEO do the final interview. Okay. But really to scale, man, with you, only take on good clients if you're doing rev share. Otherwise you'll drive yourself insane. And then you got to hire good people. You just got to hire competent people that you can trust. And that's the hardest thing in business, by the way. That's the hardest thing is to find high quality people. It's hard. So just step in it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bet, buddy. Yuri?
Tanner, thanks so much for dropping so many insights. A pleasure to meet you. Especially, it was warming my heart when you said about coaching and how much you appreciate that. And I happen to be in the coaching space, and I work with a lot of successful coaches and someone who are just starting out. So my question to you is, what would you say is the one thing that coaches can do to just transition from low ticket to high ticket offers and charge $250 million for mindset?
Yeah. So I'll be straight with you. When I was selling the rapid muscle system, it was $47, and then I sold it for 1,500. The only thing that really changed is it was just more customized, right? So if I'm selling a fitness program and it's like, they buy it and it's like, here's a generic workout program and this and that, all that they really got was more access to me, which just by the way, like if you sell more access, you can charge more, right? So I can charge more for a group call. I can't charge as much as a one-to-one as like a private client, right? Like it changes. So one of the aspects is just access. The other aspect is then you just customize more. So if I'm doing group coaching, I can't charge as much because it's generalized information. Like, so this is a group call, right? It's generalized info. I can't get too specific. But if I go one-to-one with you, I can jack up the price because now it's super specific. So I would really just say like, be more specific. And then the second thing is they just get a little more access, and the more specific and the more access they get, the more you can jack up the price. Was that what you were looking for? Or is that off topic?
Yeah, no, that helps. That helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way,
Cool.
Tanner,
Well,
whenever you got a cutoff, brother, you just let us know. We'll,
yeah, we're good.
we'll
We're
try
good.
for
We're
a
good.
5 minute buffer.
We're good for now. I got you. Thanks. Nolan, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, what's going on, man? So you've been a massive part of the rapid growth in the coaching space, right? Like huge cornerstone of that. And we watched it kind of become more commoditized with coaching businesses shifting more towards done with you and done for you solutions, and vice versa from the service side back to the coaching side. So I'm curious where you see the evolution of the space going.
Dude, such a great question. So I've been doing this 6 years. It's harder now than I've ever seen it. More competitive, ad costs are up. Everyone's, because the hard thing with coaching is this. At the end of the day, there's only so many things you can say you can do, right? So like, let's say I'm a business coach. You're probably going to help with content. Okay, cool. You're probably going to help with ads. You're probably going to help with funnels. You're going to help pretty similarly, right? So the hard part is it's like, well, why should I work with Tanner versus this other guy? And the differentiation is getting more difficult because 6 years ago, I mean, dude, ManyChat, that thing was hot when it came out. I mean, I was crushing it with that. You guys will just see my KPIs. They were crazy. I was like, oh, everyone's doing webinars, but DM ads are way better. Now everyone's like, DM ad, who cares? They just don't care. So the issue, you have two ways to compete in business. Either you're the Goliath, Netflix, Uber, you're just so different that it's ridiculous. Or you're mechanism based. So in the coaching space, a lot of it's mechanism based, meaning webinar versus VSL, DM ads versus straight to page, YouTube versus Facebook. The problem is what I've seen is over time, the market has caught up. People have done coaching programs, they've been burned, or they've done multiple, and they're like, it's kind of the same. And so it's making it harder because there's only so much you can do to differentiate in coaching. And then people are kind of like, I don't want to say wising up, but once they've done a few programs, et cetera, it just gets more difficult. So in terms of where it's going, I think, I don't know. I think it's getting more commoditized right now. I think that's why, and you'll see every couple of years, like people go to high ticket and then it kind of filters back to low ticket. I feel like the communities are hot right now with school, right? Like everyone's like doing communities. Then a few years from now, they might go back to high ticket. I think the key thing though, is just, it goes back to having as good of an offer as you can, but let me try to wrap up my thought. It's hard for me, for example, it'd be hard for me to like completely revamp Elite COs. Right? Like completely change the service. So I think when you get to that point, you have two options. Either you lean more on organic and you build a more organic audience. Like I look at Iman Gadzhi and I feel like he could just put his toenails in a paper bag and people would buy it. Like for real. Like I really do. Or Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's either you get more free traffic to help with the commoditization because ad costs are rising, et cetera, or B, you just have to move into a new vertical. So for me, I think over the next few years, you guys can't see right now, but you'll see me start moving into these new verticals. And you'll see, and that's going to be the big reason why, because for me, I've been doing this 6 years. And I'm like, man, it's getting harder and harder and harder, and trust is lower and lower and lower. And I also have bigger aspirations, like in terms of what I want to do. But you really just have to focus on a really good USP. So like what makes you different? And it has to really be different, right? A lot of times it's just not that different. Or B, you're going to have to go into a new vertical. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking another kind of follow-up to that, how have your risk tolerances and your view on margin changed at each level of the game?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm aggressive, man. I think ultimately if you're less than 30%, especially at scale, it stops to make sense. So for example, if you're doing, let's say you're doing $1 million a month at 30%, so you take home 300 grand, right? For you to take home another 100 grand, you have to make an extra $300,000 to $400,000, which is a lot, right? Yeah. So you have to decide at a certain point. I think you have to decide, is that extra work worth a little bit more of a biscuit, right? So if you're doing 70% margins, it's like, yeah, hey, if I get another 100 grand, I take home 70. At scale, that was where I was at, 30%. So if I was doing 2 mil a month, I could take home around 600. Right. But bro, it was like $1 mil to 2 mil in terms of client load and fulfillment and everything is a lot. So I think you just have to make that judgment call. Because it can be a lot more stress. Yeah. But 30% is where I'd say is like, you're below 30%. It's like, it's not even worth it. Like you just need to wait. You need to get your margins up before you keep pushing.
And do you take more risks now that you have more wiggle room, or did you take more risks early on?
Definitely now, man. I mean, because like what
Yeah,
I don't
really?
have, yeah, I mean, I don't have as much to lose, you know. Now it's all relative
Yeah.
on the size of the risk, but you know, for me now, it's like, oh, okay, let's test with 10K or 20K. Like when I was in the beginning, it was like, fuck, $100, holy shit, like
Right.
please work, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was helpful. All right, Chase.
That's great. Thanks, man.
Yeah, bro. Chase, I can't hear you, man. I think you're on mute.
How about now?
Yeah, you're good. Hit me.
So thanks for pulling up, dude. No, quick question. Your bit about finding good clients and saying fuck you to bad ones really hit. I think it's really easy to find bad ones.
Super easy. They're everywhere, man.
Yeah, I wanted to know if you have like a checklist for like the anatomy of a good client. How do you find good clients?
Sure. Easy way. Well, so it depends on what you're selling, but like what is your offer?
I do fulfillment model for day traders, basically.
So you help day traders basically.
I help day trading coaches grow their business.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I'll make it super simple. If they already make money, easiest way. But the hardest thing is there's not a lot of clients who do that. The other hard thing is when you run ads, you can't usually be that choosy. Meaning, if you start turning away too much money, guess what happens? Your business isn't profitable. That's the hard part of coaching. And you know, so like CoffeeZilla, right? My main guy. He hasn't made a video about me. Maybe he has. I haven't seen if he has, but you know, he's always like really hard on people. But the thing is like, dude, you can't only take the best clients if you're running ads because it won't be profitable. But at the same time, you don't want to take on a bunch of clients who aren't going to win because it hurts your reputation. They get mad and you know, you don't want to ruin their life, etc. But if I could only take the best clients, I would set a benchmark of like, let's say it's like you have to be doing at least 10K a month or 20K a month. Why? Because the skills needed to get to that level mean that they can usually implement what you tell them. The less revenue, it usually means they have lower level skills, which means it's harder for them to implement what you tell them. That's honestly just the truthful answer. So the more revenue they have, they're usually a better client because to get to that level, they have to have more skills to get there. It's as simple as it can be. But you have to balance it if you're running ads. That's again why organic traffic's amazing, because if you get in organic traffic, you're just like, nope, yes, nope. You know, I mean, you can choose, man.
Yeah.
So
I hit up their DMs and I do like a DSL of my own inside their DMs, like, hey, I can help you. But that's really helpful. I'll keep that in mind.
yeah, that's one of the hard parts of consulting. And that's part where, like, you guys are hearing me, like, as I'm moving into other businesses. Why? Because that's the part I'm kind of tired of a bit. I'm kind of tired of that shit because it's like, I give them the best program on earth, in my opinion, and they don't get results. And then these clients do get results and then they get mad at me and I'm going, well, what did I do? I gave them the same blueprint.
Yeah.
It's just, again, you can't control that outcome. Like, imagine in sports, if all these athletes were like, oh, my coach sucks. Like, I'd be starting, but he showed me the wrong drill. It's like, no one says that. Yeah, it's just part of this space. I don't know why that's part of the culture, but that's just part of this space, and that's just how it's viewed. So you just got to have to take it with a grain of salt if you're going to stay here, because it's going to happen.
Appreciate it.
All right, Franz, hit me, buddy.
Hey Tanner, am I audible?
Yeah, you're good.
So I appreciate everything you've shared. So my question is, if everything you've achieved were taken away, what would your first 2, 3 steps to be to rebuild? Or would you want to pursue the same path, or would you consider a different model?
No, dude, I would do the same thing. Yeah, so if I lost everything and I had no money and I just knew what I knew now, I'd get a high ticket offer. I'd start reaching out on my warm followers. After I did that, I'd reach out to cold. I'd get cash. Once I get that cash, I'd move into paid ads, and then I'd start making money, and then I just rinse and repeat that process. I do the same thing. I mean, you know, it's easy to say I do something different, but this is what I know, right? So that's why billionaires who lose all their fortune, they just do the same thing again, because if it worked once, it'll work again. Yeah. So I do the same thing.
Thanks, man.
You bet, bro. All right, Pierre.
Thanks for taking the questions. By the way, there's a lot of value. I love it. So for a lot of us on this call, I guess sales is the main bottleneck in our business. And when I listen to your story, I think like, okay, perhaps I got to go back to more door-to-door sales if I want to learn. But there's a lot of sales systems like Sandler and EPQ, and they give you different advice. So what do you think, for example, about asking for people's budget during the discovery phase? Like, do you have a range of marketing budgets you can invest on a monthly basis? Some say it's a good thing to do. Some say don't do that.
Yeah, dude, I'm such a logical seller. And the reason is I feel emotional selling, it just drains me. Because emotional selling to me, that's Jeremy Miner's thing, right? NEPQ, great guy. He's great at sales. I don't like it for me because I feel it's like, so how do you feel about that? You know, like, what are your thoughts about that? I'm just like, listen, bro, I don't give a shit what your thoughts are. Like, if you don't do this, you won't be successful. Like, that's just my personality. So when I get in a price objection, the way I handle it is I'll do it in the chat real quick. So it's like, close. Hey, so the price of the program is 10K. Before I go into this, you guys need to know it's the lowest number you'll take. Okay, so people go, well, I won't take anything lower. It's like, yes, you will. If someone said, I'll pay you, but I want to do it, Tanner, but like, this is all I have. Everyone has a number. Everyone. Okay. So to answer your question, this is how I do. I go, so price of the program is 10K. You're like, hey, Tanner, that's too much. You object. I say, hey, no problem. I totally understand. Agree. Then I isolate. So I isolate by saying, hey, I just want to make sure, Pierre, is there anything else besides the price that would stop you moving forward today? Or is it just the price? And you're like, no, it's just the price. Like, I love it. It's just the price. We need to do that. So it's a tie down. Then I double tie down. So I say, got it. So if we're able to figure the price out, can you move forward? You're like, yeah. Then I do what I call cash on hand. So this is where I ask and I say, look, so Pierre, for me to best know how to help you, I got to know what you have available. I'm not saying you have to spend all of it, but I do need to know what you have, and I need to know what you can spend today. Don't tell me what's in your Forex account and, you know, Bitcoin. Like, what do you have now? You're going to give me a number. If you don't give me a number, I will not move forward till you give me a number. If someone's like, oh, I have to check. I'm like, Pierre, like, what do you make in a month? What do you spend? You probably make about the same, right? So let's say you say $5,000, and the lowest number I'll go is 2,000. I just know this in my head. I haven't told you this. The reason that's important, guys, is you want to maximize cash on a sales call. You never, ever, ever, ever want to start just dropping the price, because like, what if Pierre would have paid $5,000, but I was like, well, what about 2? I just lost $3,000. Okay. You have to do what's best for the business. Why? Because business is tough, guys. Like, you always have to make as much as you can and pad against like storms. So once I get that number, the reason I do that is then I go, okay, so it's $5,000. So I go, well, so Pierre, check this out. How I say this, guys, you'll make tons of money if you do this. So I go, so Pierre, look, typically the price of the program is 10,000, right? But that's not going to work for you because you said you had 5. So look, I'm down to work something out for you. But before I do, I just want to make sure you can move forward today. Okay. The reason I say that is I do not want him to say he's going to think about it after. Shit drives me crazy. You don't give discounts and then they get to think about it. That's not a fair deal. Fair deal is exchange of value. It's fair, equal. So if I give a discount, what's fair? He fucking moves forward now. So then they might go, well, but what is this? Like, hey, Pierre, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. I just want to make sure if it makes sense financially, you can move forward, right? Because I don't want to give you a discount and then you say you can't do it because that's not fair to me, right? They're like, I'm telling you guys, this frame works. So they're like, yeah, that seems fair. It's like, yeah, because it is fair. That's logical selling. You see, I'm keeping it logical. Like, I'm not emotional. I'm just like 2 + 2 is 4. So then they'll say, yeah, it sounds good. I'm like, cool. So I don't think you should spend all of it, but I do think you should do something. So I'll tell you what, you said you had $5,000. If you can put that 5K down, you come in, you work hard. You don't tell the other clients you got a discount because, you know, some pay 10K, right? If you can do that, I'll call it a day at 5K and we'll wrap up. Sound fair enough? And if you guys think about it, that is ethical all the way around because it usually is 10K. You are doing him a favor. He does have to move forward now if he's going to get it. Other people have paid more, but like, if you think about it, it's all relative to the situation. Okay. If a millionaire pays 10, I'm not saying you just price gouge people based on like what you think they can pay, but like, you have to be able to work with people in business. And the reason that's helpful is if you have 10 clients a month who can't afford the 10K, but they do 5, that's 50 grand. And it does make a massive difference at scale. Maybe where if you're a smaller company, it doesn't, but if you have 100 staff like I did, massive difference. So that's my answer. But sell how you want to sell, man. There's no wrong way to sell. It's just emotional selling. It honestly, I get fatigued because I'm just a very like, I don't give a shit. Like I'll do whatever it takes. So when I'm talking to someone, I'm just like, bro, like this is how it is. Like, what do you want to do? This is reality. Like I'm in the real world. You got to like come here. You can stay where you're at. That's so it just fits my style better. Okay.
Awesome.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. I wasn't actually going to ask a question, but you've been dropping some sauce, so I thought I'd jump in here from one of the other questions when you mentioned your profit margin. I know you said, when you're doing like 2 mil a month, you were nearing around 30% profit margins, and I think this question would be suited to you as well because you're managing. You said you have a portfolio of companies that also are software companies, and so I wanted to get kind of your insight on how do you decide when to profit or prioritize profit maximization versus revenue maximizations? And then what factor drives that decision and how you're applying that to maybe a coaching style business versus like a software business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think as long as you're still making good profit margins, you keep pushing. Okay. When you start seeing profit dip, so for example, if you're doing $1 million a month, let's say 50%, and then you go to $1.5 million and you're doing 25%, that doesn't make any sense. Right. So then you'd want to go back down and have higher profit at a lesser revenue. But I think as long as the profit's there, the goal of the business is to win, is to get as big as you can. So you keep pushing until, like for me in my business, there came a point where I was making more money, like more revenue, but I took home less money. I was like, that makes no sense. Like I'm servicing more clients. There's more bullshit, more staff, but I'm not making any more money. And I think that's where you make that decision. If you're coming into software, if the software is built properly, more clients doesn't create more fulfillment typically, not a lot. It's very negligible compared to consulting. So again, I would kind of give you that same thing. Like as long as like you're not having massive issues in attrition and stuff like that, you're good. Usually in software, depending on the software, you're looking to, and how big the company is, like less than 10% max, right? Some software companies are going to say less than 5 or less than 3. But that was how I did it. I just would push until my profit started being less, but I was making more, and then I would go back and fix it. And then I wouldn't go back up until that problem was fixed. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think it's quite a logical based answer. So I think just sometimes you get a bit confused and you feel like there's probably a different answer, but yeah, that makes sense for sure. 100%.
Okay. Cool. All right. Last one. Cocoa. Is that how you say it? Cocoa?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for being here, man. Dude, just wanted to ask, so I know you push low ticket pretty hard, and obviously you guys are pushing more, with YouTube stuff now. How are you going about forcing consumption of like trainings, videos just before calls to decrease sales cycles?
Yeah, dude. That's such a great question. I think the most impactful thing is manual follow-ups, like text. So all my sales guys will send a manual text before, and then in that text, it's like, hey, just want to confirm our time tomorrow at 8 p.m. You could just text me back. Also, can you let me know if you watched this video? Like usually the manual stuff, because everyone's very used to automations. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it, but it's really just like the manual stuff. Outside of that, it's just, I think like if you can get people in your YouTube and they watch the long form content, that builds the most trust. So something you could do as well in conjunction is you just have, this isn't really pre-call, but you could take your best YouTube videos that perform the best or that are more like VSLs, and you boost that and you retarget it, like anyone who like hits your pages, etc. And they just get more inundated with your content. But besides that, it's just the manual texting is what I've seen do the absolute best. All my sales teams do it.
Cool. Thank you.
Love that, man. Let's go ahead and wrap up, dude. We wrap up with the Power 5. I got this from Nathan Lackup on Who Does Podcasts. Rapid fire. You ready?
Yeah, hit me.
Favorite business book? Or book. Doesn't have to be business.
Mastery of Love.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Do you have a favorite quote or statement you live by? Mantra.
Just do it by Nike, man. That's just do it.
I like that. Is there any CEOs or founders you're studying personally or following, etc.?
I have a list. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I'd say the ones like I follow the closest, like Becker, Mosey, Ovens, because like they came from a similar place.
Love that. And the last one you said earlier, you interviewed a lot of billionaires. What questions are they asking? Or what question, if one?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fulfillment. Like all the guys I saw scale rapidly fast and crazy businesses, is it just the models were easy to know fulfillment. So 2 examples is Weed Maps by Justin Hartfield. So he built Yelp for weed, and the fulfillment was Yelp, so there was none. And then he made a ton of money from ad placements. The other guy's name was Scott Cohen, and he built a competitor to Invisalign called Byte, BYTE, sold it for, I think it was close to 2 billion or 1.5 or whatever. And, you know, once they slap the braces on, that's it. But he just beat them in marketing, which is a little less common, I would say. But again, every business model I saw, I was like, as it scaled, there's not more fulfillment. That was the key thing. So if it scales and there's not a lot of extra fulfillment, that's the key thing I saw across the board.
Love that. Just bought from Byte. That's funny. If you can go back to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him, knowing what you know now?
Hire a coach sooner. Just drop your ego, hire a coach.
Last one specifically for you, because I'm into the whole biohacking stuff. Sauna or red light?
Red light. I have a red light sauna.
Okay. Red light or cold plunge?
Oh, red light.
I love it, because I love mine, dude. I love it. Dude, you've been freaking awesome. Before I hand it back over to Serge to close out, do you want to plug any of your stuff for when this goes up on YouTube?
No, just like you can just drop my free community link. I don't know where that is, but yeah, just this is our free community, guys. We just started like yesterday, like restarted, I guess you could say. And there's like 30 modules in there. And honestly, I feel like if you can just go through that, you'll probably make a ton of progress. So, but yeah, that's it.
You've been awesome, dude. Thank you so much, man. Serge, you want to close out?
Yeah. Just, want to thank you, Tanner, for spending the last 90 minutes with us. But I want to just emphasize the importance of the insights that were covered in the last 90 minutes. I feel like most people don't understand how one single pivot can change your life. A lot of people think you need to figure out ads, you need to figure out sales, but it's like, no, you just have to have one single edge. And in the last 90 minutes, he shared a bunch of different insights and a bunch of different pivots and a bunch of different perspectives that if you apply to your business, you don't need to apply everything we covered today, but just find one thing that he shared that you think can apply to your situation and make it your wallpaper on your phone, and do not forget to execute it until it is done. A lot of people forget shit. We tend to keep forgetting shit over and over. You get a bunch of insights, you learn how to make $1 billion, but you still can't even make $1 million, because you forgot to execute on the little thing. It's not all the ideas, it's execute on one thing at a time. So rewatch this whole thing if you're watching this on YouTube, wherever, but execute on one thing. Just, that's it.
Let's go. Thank you, bro, so much, dude.
Yeah, rooting for all you guys. Good luck. See ya.
Don't work too hard, man.
All right, guys, let's cook. It's the weekend. Cook, guys. Let's cook. Let's cook.
Let's go.
Take care.